Yo, greetings everybody. This is Wesley Pepper. This is the Lexcia Podcast, and this is episode 129. When I was writing this down earlier, I realized wow, it's a big number. Yeah. So yeah, we're almost at 150. Yeah, man. I've been working a lot with what's his guy, Tha H3adspace on Gennaro talks football a lot this year, so you can check out that channel or those episodes on my channel. And also remember, there's also African Genius that we were doing last year with Uncle Asaf that channel, that playlist is on my channel. So yeah, man, and to all the new listeners, welcome everybody. And yeah, man, today I'm talking to a brother, Viwe Joka from Motherwell in PE, the Eastern Cape. Just for the record, I've got a strong connection with the Eastern Cape. I've lived there many years actually, and a bunch of other things. So I've got a real strong connection there. I haven't been there in a while though. That's another story for another day. But my brother Viwe Joka, thanks man. We spoke a bit on Mustafa's show, and but you know, you're new to this platform. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. More so. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about the Headspace podcast and your working, and and friends and so forth, and working in that space. So with focus on the Headspace podcast.
Yeah. Thank you, brother Wesley. Thank you for the invite. Really appreciate it. It was good to be on another platform I find exciting as well, because I don't just these invites because I respect the people, I respect the platforms as well, and what you brothers are really spreading out to people and the kind of information that you're sending out. My name is Viwe Joka, from PE, creative writer, content creator, multimedia artist. I do a bit of illustration as well, but predominantly right now I am active on the podcast YouTube channel called Tha H3adspace, where we deal with pop culture as it affects and is growing and developing in the African continent, with a focus on hip hop, but dealing with different aspects of pop cultural news generally as an expansion of that. So for me, the journey basically began as a recording artist, a rapper. The hip hop culture for me was basically a portal into learning more about Black history and inevitably the Black present moment. So through listening to the more conscientious and socially informed kind of rap, I really began a love with just research and an active engagement in the politics that Africa is really embroiled in, and seeing a possible sense of revolution for myself, just on a personal level, to find myself in a place where I can live on this country, on this continent, in a way that makes me feel like I am doing something. I am adding my imprint. So inevitably, that kind of impulse brought me towards writing of all sorts. I've done a couple of essays for some publications, and I met up with a brother called Keza Mzozoyana, better known as Luke Concepts, who basically started the Headspace. And when we had the conversation, he looked at me and he was like, yo, you're the guy I've been needing. I have the ideas. We just need somebody who's interesting to listen to basically grow an audience. And that's where it began. And we've been doing this thing right now for about 3 years, and it's steadily growing. So, yeah.
Dope, man. Like you said a bunch of things there that I can totally relate to. Totally. I always find it interesting that artists across the world, actually, South Africa doesn't matter. We actually vibrate at a very similar, like even your path. I can totally relate to that, and actually, quite a few of my guests also. I just want to raise that point. a point about the headspace. So tell us a little bit about that, man. So you say you're two guys. Where do you guys broadcast from? Okay, so that's the first question, and I kind of want to move into like your interest in pop culture, because I find that space very very interesting. So before we get there, just tell us a little bit about, like, where you guys based, how many times you guys broadcast or publish, and episode, and so forth.
Yeah. So we are active in PE in the Motherwell area. This is where all the members, if I can put it that way, of the
Sure.
Headspace stay. So Keza Kaya basically does the shooting and the editing. I do the research and the hosting predominantly, but we do episodes where we have conversations together on video. And then there's like an invisible third member of the Headspace who kind of puts all the logistics together when we have to go to events. And his name is Kolani Nowala, but he's better known as Flo. So even the way that we stylize the spelling of the Headspace, spelling it with a 3 instead of an A, that kind of symbolizes the 3 people who are active in developing
Ah,
this. Yeah, so that's what that's about.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
Giving the he was a little Easter egg there. Yeah. So so we're active in Motherwell. Matter of fact, this is the space that we use.
Yeah, man.
This this is Flo's house. And at the back, he basically has this room that has been converted into our art hub. This is where we sit, plot, plan, shoot, meet with artists, organize, and delegate. So this is the headquarters, so to
Yeah,
speak.
man. Much
Um,
love.
we we drop episodes. We drop at least 2 episodes in a week. We're not really strict on the days, but we've developed like a discipline of having at least one album review, because we also do reviews from music that's coming out of the continent, because we noticed that there's a huge space
Sure.
to kind of
Absolutely.
engage with what the
Absolutely.
so just noticing the trend and the curve of how YouTube is developing. A lot of big YouTubers music reviews, and I was very interested in the space. So when I suggested it, it was something we hopped on, and it's essentially what kind of brought us a lot of the notoriety, because artists and listeners both appreciated the fact that we were not only attending to quote unquote famous acts, but we were looking at artists who have the resume and the work ethic, but aren't really being pushed on a commercial level on more old media platforms, your television and such. So we gave a lot of airtime and necessary kind of paths to artists who deserved it in every right, but are constantly being neglected by old media, which chooses to kind of select a few group of artists that it puts on as the people to watch out for. So we do album reviews, and then we always make sure that we always do a topic. It could be
Yeah.
anything that's dominating around our minds.
Yeah,
It could
man.
be based on a recent. So
You
yeah,
guys,
every
you
week
guys
we
got
at
some
least.
really interesting. You guys got some really interesting stuff. Yeah, I mean, I was checking out. I'd actually like to, what can I say, engage you on some of them. There's some that I've got an opinion about. But like they say, we'll cut the bees, let's eat them bit by bit. Basically, what I want to get that. I wanna hit you up with, like, interesting thing that you say about like how you guys review. And you are correct. I noticed the same thing about album reviews, and I'm reviewing and talking to others, and I focus more on visual art. I also find there's a void there. There's actually nothing outside of the mainstream, even the mainstream, but so curated and so um it's actually incredibly biased, and I find it actually overwhelming that there's this amount of bias in a creative space where it's supposed to be anyway. Anyway, that thing gets me heated up. But yeah, I see what you're saying from there. So let me just get that. How do you guys what is it, curate, or what is the word I'm looking for? How do you guys get artists to review? And then explain to me like your process behind it, because you're raising something interesting about, or I get a sense of you actually engaging with the artist album. Obviously very personal. So and then tell me like through, or what are you looking at? What are you reporting back? And like if we can make it more like recent, like you can give us like a recent like example, so we can understand like how you work and so forth.
Yeah. So for us, the criteria is we're looking for artists who are dedicated and show a level of understanding the holistic aspects that you have to develop consistently as an artist. So we live in an era where technology has made it somewhat more easier to shoot videos. There are phones right now that have the technology to literally help artists give themselves the visual marker and an illustration of who they are, whether it's something serious like actually shooting a music video or just going on TikTok to show the fact that you're trying to engage with your audience. So that's the first thing. An artist who's really trying to push themselves, and you can tell that they've consistently been at telling their story as they evolve as artists and have identified their core audience. And then secondly, the quality of the music. That speaks volumes. It has to be music that's on par with the professional standard. So once we listen to an artist who we realize is consistent and is engaging with the audience, plus they have a body of work that has really matched up in terms of its quality, then we take the step to reach out to them, and they either send us the music, or if the music is readily available, we download it and we go ahead and do the review. So yeah, to answer your question directly, what we're looking for is artists who really have the work ethic, who are putting it in, and who are not just kind of doing it flimsily or casually, but are showing a certain level of professionalism about it. Because that way, when an audience finds out about that artist and we redirect them to their links, they have something to land on that's pretty consistent and sustainable. So that's what we're
Explain to
looking
me,
for.
and this is like part of the meat. Explain to me what constitutes an artist being consistent. What constitutes being when you, because you mentioning like there's a certain standard. Uh,
Yeah.
I wanna give you I wanna add on to that. And this is actually something that I pay attention to quite closely. Is that like if you look at Spotify, for example, Spotify has changed the way music is consumed, the way they make music. Tracks are now shorter. It's also a lot visual and so forth and so forth. Um, that is the standard of let's just say 2024, or the yeah, just say this year. And it's making a lot of people money. I mean, look at Taylor Swift. A lot of these some artists are blowing up. So one could argue that standard there. Um, how can I say there's nothing wrong with it? Because I mean, clearly you can see I'm very critical of of the current music. But like one could sometimes try and look at it from another side, like looking from outside in. One can say that, yo, look here, man, that this standard over here is making people music. They are adapting to technology. They understand the audience and so forth, and they are sort of adapting to that. But I find most of it very, very, very formulated, amongst other things. So yeah, man. So I just picked it up. Like you what you come across is like you guys got a specific standard, and you are dropping below that. So just explain that to me or to my audience.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's appropriate to start historically by understanding the fact that before this internet revolution, the power to become a successful artist was solely in the hands of record labels. These were the people who could make or break an artist's livelihood. So they discovered the talent somewhere in the ground roots. It was an artist who was probably performing in their local spaces. And once they're identified, they're extracted and they're given the whole media machine transformation, PR, marketing, engineering, mastering. The record label would take care of everything and would basically project the artist towards the audience and see how successful they become. And what changed was with the advent of applications that could help artists make their own music in the privacy of their own homes through their laptops, with the advent of phones, which could allow the artists to shoot themselves, with the advent of more and more and more technologies, which were putting the power in the artist's hands, you could literally, as an artist, do everything that you once gave your livelihood to in terms of a label by yourself. And when you understand how to strategize your own trajectory as you sit home and understand what kind of music you're making, who do you want to make it for, then the audience finds you as you find them. So this dialogue that's taken place through technology with apps like SoundCloud and Bandcamp has really allowed for artists to kind of cut out that a significant amount of that power which was held. So a lot of what looks for themselves forward without the help of labels, because the artists that we will predominantly see on these media platforms will be the ones that are still backed by the labels. And to be honest,
Yeah,
those
I
artists don't
agree.
necessarily need the, they've already got the financial buy-in, and their career is just going to be a matter of how much they're able to connect with the audience, and basically how much their label is able to pay for everything from the radio play to the shows. Whereas it's difficult for artists who are trying to do this on a quote unquote independent way, where if they do have a team, they have to literally source out events to perform at. They have to do the research of the audience that's growing and which places they have to go to, how often. And that takes a lot of initiative. So we really wanted to dedicate the album review section to those artists, to artists who have everything but this push towards a greater audience. And I think one of the roles that YouTube channels and podcasts can play and are increasingly playing is becoming the new television, the new
Yeah,
radio.
man. Yeah,
Whereas we do see, especially when you look globally, how old media, television and radio, is dying a slow, dwindling death.
yeah.
And they're trying to reinvent themselves through, the podcast and the YouTube scene. Because this is where the majority of people globally right now's attention
Yeah,
is. I mean, they the attention economy. So this is really people's phones are where their attention
yeah.
is. And if you can create a platform that can amass a following of people who relate with your content, you've got a flowing dialogue that you could use to basically bring up any topic, introduce any artist. So when we found that there was a core lack of a podcast which addressed hip hop culture as it grew and as it exists in South Africa, we filled that void, and it literally just started growing by itself because the need was there. Hip hop heads, and when I say hip hop heads, a lot of the hip hop that's played in radio is, again, it's commercially backed, so it doesn't have a lot of artistic freedom. You don't, as an artist, if you're backed by major labels, have the kind of leeway to take a lot of artistic risks, and so a lot of the music ends up sounding the same, and it's just very formulaic. So as a result, there's a huge gap for artists who are doing a whole lot of experimental
I
styles,
agree.
who are just, because I think being an artist is having the freedom to explore. And when you are too held back by industry and corporate pressure, you are turned into a tastemaker. It kills the art because now
I like.
you're told how to produce your art, You're told what line to straddle. You're basically told how to play it safe. And artists who succumb to that pressure become tastemakers. They become artists who are held ransom by the needs of branding and product placement, instead of their own yearning to express their story and where they are. So that's where our criteria is derived from. We are looking for artists who are really doing it by themselves, and by themselves in this instance would mean, without big corporate backing, and with a team of people they trust, and are doing work that is formidable for that kind of a hustle. So the consistency comes in. If an artist has been doing that for more than 2 to 3 years, and online their footprint has not dissipated, and you can see the fact that they've been pushing their albums, their videos, their mixtapes, their narrative. Sometimes it isn't even the music. It's identifying an artist who's having a conversation with their audience, and whose audience is listening and talking back to them, because those are the kind of people who are most likely to be followed by their audience everywhere that they go. So as a result, if I review a Dynasties, who is a rapper from Mthatha, who has a huge cult following in the Eastern Cape, but isn't known generally across South Africa, her following is able to become the link that introduces her to the rest of South Africa. And we're able to just be a springboard for that and review work that a group of people who can be termed as a niche already know, but it can open a doorway to that niche thing becoming something a whole lot broader. Because right now in South Africa, lastly, we're witnessing a lot of artists who are quote unquote famous by their own sheer muscle, talent, and creativity. They did not have label backing. They did not have the assistance of big brands. They started out and they connected with their audience, and the internet gave them the opportunity to become nationally renowned.
Yeah, you said a bunch of really cool things there. There's actually a few things I wanna. I think I forgot the one point, but basically I get your criteria. I actually relate to it very similar on a visual art and or literature perspective. I do think that it's what you're saying doesn't. It's not necessarily just music. It's actually in TV as well. These and oh yes, that was the one point. I also totally agree with what you say. There's a huge market for music and art outside of the formulated stuff. And I also think that there's people my generation and up that also has the capital to spend. That's why you see all these nostalgic tours. I mean, what's this guy Jeffrey Osborne? I mean, he's like, I don't know how old is this guy. And like, I mean, like he's still doing Boys to Men the other day from South Africa. I mean, like I haven't listened to Boys to Men's music in 50 years. And they can still come in and fill up stadiums. So basically, my point is that that market there has got a large, there's a lot of spending, there's a lot of money to spend, which actually leads me sort of to my next thing, because besides just the music reviews, I mean, you guys do a whole bunch of other things, and one of them that I really like is talking about topical things, and addressing what's so that's also I guess what I want to get in, like, what type of there's actually a bunch of things you have said. For example, like the one thing about not common, most they have saying calling out Drake as a yeah, as he's not hip hop. I thought that was interesting, but I mean that's just amongst other things. So basically, what I'm trying to ask is, like, what type of stored trends you talk about, and how do you give a biased or an unbiased opinion? I mean, okay, wait, because I think that I'm answering my own question clearly as very biased, but yeah, just explain to us a little bit about that. Like, how do you guys, what stories you look at, and so forth, and you do the research, the presenting. So just tell us a little bit about, like, your processes behind that.
Yeah. So I think with YouTube, there's there's different kinds of commentary. You know, there's commentary which is personal. You know, it doesn't want to become anything other than a hot take. But then there's commentary which tries to become a little um, more scholastic and based on, I would use the word objective and kind of study to it. So when I came into the headspace, a huge thing for me was I felt there's a lack of South African platforms that really practice critical theory.
Oh
And
yeah,
by critical theory, I mean you can there's a I think there's a fundamental difference between a critique and an opinion.
mm.
Anybody can have an opinion. You know? You just need to see it and you can have an opinion about it. But a critique means you're trying to give a view that's based on analysis of what this possibly means in a particular context. So if you're trying to deal with it politically, you're trying to give a view from a political context. If you're trying to deal with it creatively. So what I do on the headspace is critical theory. So to kind of answer your question of is it biased? Sure. It's almost impossible for there not to be some
To be
kind
there.
of bias.
Yeah,
I really strive to formulate the kind of arguments that are really not based on what I think, but are based on what I've studied and observed in the context that I'm speaking from. So I speak mainly in a very politicized context. And a lot of in the beginning, a lot of people in the comment section used to accuse me of not doing album reviews, but political discussions on albums. And I felt it was very important for
it's a
me
good one.
to clarify why the reviews that I do on the Headspace tend to always slant towards some kind, because I think not too many people understand that everything is politics,
Everything is
especially
politics.
because when we ignore the politics of things, then we don't understand the power dynamics,
Yeah,
you
man.
know? So when I do that, it's important for me to understand the artist, their story, and what they're trying to do. Even before I listen to the music, I do research on this artist because I won't be able to contextualize their album if I don't know where they've been and what they're trying to do as an artist. So I'm not just trying to listen to an album and give my opinion. I'm trying to say this artist has come from this place and this is what they're trying to do now. Have they achieved it? You know?
I
And
like that.
how do I determine if they have achieved it or not? I look at the fact that every artist operates in a market, and that market is around quote unquote competitors, other artists who are doing similar things. And so if an artist wants to aim for success, they have to really consider the environment they're operating around and whether or not that music can relate in a timely way, and the creativity and the songwriting of it has the potential to push them forward. So when I do this analysis on albums, I do it according to market research. I do it according to the cultural space that the artist is active in, their history, and a study of their audience. So I'm not just giving hot takes. I'm not just saying this album is bad. Matter of fact, I don't even say there are bad albums. I go, there are albums that don't reach the mark they want to because of these reasons.
I love that, man. I love that. I guess I'm
But
just not.
the
Oh, sorry.
appreciation of the music is yeah. Because I don't think music can be framed like that. I don't think you can say the music is good or is bad. The best thing I can say is the music has attained its goal or it hasn't. So
Mm.
that's how I approach album reviews. I look at I mean we recently did a review on Shane Eagle. And he's an artist who's been established, been trying to kind of do an alternative lyricism sound. And I mean I notoriously gave the album a very weak review, citing my reasons as the fact that I think he's not playing to his strengths and that he's losing his South African identity. So again, I can't leave out the politics because they're very much part and parcel of what makes the music thrive or dwindle in the first place. If any artist is going to be successful, it is going to be because they appeal to certain features and facets of people's identity. They know how to capture the voice of the experiences of what people are going through. They understand the dynamic of their own voice and or what so have you. So yeah, the reviews for me are a practice of critical theory in the context of art and music. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show both the audience and the artist that everything is political. And when you understand that, you can approach what you do with a level of understanding the power dynamics you're playing around to understand how to navigate.
Hey everybody, there's a bit of a technical thingy there happens again. So yeah, Viwe, just to explain that last, but that I was explaining. I kind of want to get your pick your brain. Like I was firstly what I was first trying to explain is like I understand where these type of reviews are important or necessary in like the art ecosystem, and this applies to visual art as well. I think I mentioned the story of myself growing up. Um, before I buy any type of music, the review really shaped if I will, listen to it. And even I was really big on that growing up. And even apply today, it applies even to visual art and so forth and so forth and so forth. So I think it's a very important part of the ecosystem. So what I want to sort of get your brain is, and this is something that I'm very interested in. I'm covering the same. I want to cover it a bit more. So Chat GPT launched last year this time, and it's been a game changer in a major way. I did an interview with some visual artists. I think February last year, and they run this like really dope as website, and they got their own platform and this and that. So I got access to I'm trying to think of the guy's name. But anyway, so he was talking about because he works with a bunch of visual artists, and some of the guys were actually quite not I wouldn't put it depressed, but very concerned about because AI at once, so this is last year, this time, had over 1 billion prompts a day. And guys who make a living as who does portraits like family portraits and so forth, like that gig is over. Maybe not over, but it's on its way out. And I mean, there was also I read of some award-winning script writers that eventually came and say, "Yo, actually, AI helped me to do this and that." And this thing is getting smarter. What I have noticed, and this from a visual art perspective, a lot of people are naive. To a degree, I've also noticed a lot of universities as well. Not a lot, and I'm passing only 2 or 3 universities that I know people there. There's not a lot. I mean, there's no. Why must I study something and give this university thousands and thousands of rands a month? When I graduate, my job will be absolute. Because I will just take it away. So I don't think that people are changing fast enough, and I think artists in particular. One of the points you were making earlier on about the sort of I guess the style of music. Most of that is this formulated type of music is also very safe. So if you do it like that, you're gonna make a profit. But if you put AI on top of that as well, I don't think anybody is safe anymore. I think for me to make these generic beats and this generic music, I can just get an AI bot to do that. I don't even have to know how to sing or produce music. So I'm sure you know where I'm coming from, and I'm not looking for like an answer. I mean, that's we don't know what the answer is. From what I want to know from your side, man, where do you think this is gonna go? I'm talking from South Africa. Then we have load shedding issues and this and that, and fucked up roads, and it's Africa, and this and that, and this and that. And yeah, man, what's your take, especially coming from the music space? Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Um, I think earlier I mentioned how what's important for me when I do this work is conscientizing or just making people aware of the fact that everything is political. And I think AI doing that in its own way. Um, when I talk about everything being political, in a simple sense, I'm just talking about it's important to consider how to empower yourself, what tools there exist that are there for you to empower yourself, and what empowering yourself means in the first place. I think when more and more people start thinking that way, then they engage more with what's around them, as opposed to kind of accepting norms and going through safe routes or just finding themselves in positions where they feel driven to go there and they might have not considered all of the avenues. So as it relates to AI, I feel like AI is working off of the strength of what has been humanly produced thus far. Um, it can only generate art that from the styles that exist that have been made by people. It can only generate music from the styles that exist that have been made by people. So yes, a disadvantage of that would be that in those categories, in that lane, an AI generated artwork would be something that would easily and accessibly dominate simply because of the fact that it's easier to do and it allows more people to create something that they've wanted to create without a lot of the time it takes to develop the expertise, you know. But I think it also becomes a challenge on novelty, on creativity, because AI can only work from what we make. Then there is an open space for art of all kinds that hasn't been swallowed up into that conventional marketable machine that AI sources its creativity or it sources the tools that it's able to generate these 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 things from. I think it presents an opportunity that is not clearly visible right now. But what it does is that it forces every artist to think outside of the AI box. And when I say that, for visual artists, what it's doing is that it's creating a way where the everyday person can do what they are able to do, but then that puts them in a position where what can they do that it can't? You know, what kind of styles, what kind of textures, what kind of approaches does the human soul, the experience that we are having right now as we engage with this technology, what are the things that we know it would not be able to replicate? Because a machine can only mimic, and that's what I've noticed. I've had a lot of conversations with ChatGPT, and it sounds like a formal,
It does.
you know, it really it adopts the style that it learns you into because it uses algorithms, and I think that's where a lot of the key of how this technology is developing is rooted in. These algorithms are studying the patterns that every person with a smartphone has, the things they search for, what they're into, how you talk with your friends, and it talks back to you in the way that it's gleaned or learned that you talk to others. So as a result, you feel you're having a conversation with a person only because of the kind of style it's using back at you. But if you were to explore outside of your regular pattern of thinking, if you were to go and find things outside of your regular algorithm, it branches out and it challenges the AI. So I think it's a challenge on both sides. For the regular person, it's saying to us that AI can only ever be at the whim of our creativity. What we do, it follows after therein. So I do think, in matter of fact, actively right now, there are numerous artists taking ChatGPT to court, there hasn't been any like conclusive
Settlements.
verdict, but
Yeah.
yeah, the idea is that artists have to be protected in some way, because if the AI operating system is allowed to freely um, take what it will, then it leaves no room for the market to appreciate works created by people.
That's a
So
that's an interesting point about AI, sort of people not be able to produce new work. I would actually like to explore that whole thing consistently through the year, and because I'm of the
yeah,
belief that I'm not a religious dude by, in fact, I'm agnostic, but in the Bible, there's some shit that says that basically they're saying that mankind has sort of reached this creative, you can't think any further. There's some line that people justify in the Bible. So, and there's also that thing of there's nothing new under the sun. And if you look, for example, like in Hollywood, they just do remakes. There's always just cover versions of it. Like in music, and in visual art, there is also just like, for example, cubism happened in the fucking 19th century, and there's still cats that work like that today, or variations of it. So my point is that art always like sort of go. I'm of the belief that I don't want to die knowing that I've sort of reached. And this is from my personal. This is from Wesley. I don't want to die knowing that I've reached my gap. Like I can't be more creative. I can't do more. I think that's just personally, I can't accept it, and I can't accept the fact that somebody's telling me that a fucking computer somewhere is smarter than me. I can't accept it. I think you were right that like I got all. I know it's very brave saying it, and next year, I don't know, a few months, I can be wrong, but fuck it. I also just can't accept the fact that people can't. There, I think there's still a lot of more things that people still can do creatively, as music, movies, etc., etc. And all these remakes is actually killing me. We actually sort of, and I sort of want to wrap it up here, my brother. Like, there's a bunch of things especially in the review space. There's a few trends I've picked up that actually cuts across all the genres. So like for visual art, in visual art, I'll put it into two brackets. Um, fun, the actual paintings, but also the TV medium, the view media, because it's a visual medium. I've also noticed a few like how where movies, series, and so forth are going, how visual art is sort of working in cahoots with that, and how they use music. Because there's no time. I can't ever remember. I've been doing art literally my whole life, so that's well over 10, 20 years now, and I've never seen a time where all of these genres are working, not in one project, but like together. They always work in isolation. I mean, musicians are making money off, what's this guy, Kate Bush last year. He hasn't had a hit in 30, 40 years, and had a number one hit on Spotify due to that Netflix series. So I find all these mediums are working together, and that's something I want to unpack bit by bit throughout the talk to artists, that is knowledgeable on that type of thing. And yeah, that is my 2 cents. My king, I enjoyed this conversation. I think the Headspace podcast is cool. To my listeners, definitely check it out. I will. All the information will be somewhere down. Yeah, there will be a link to all of that. Sort of in closing, man, it's not early in the year. It's the second month of the year. To me, that's not early in the year anymore. What's I guess what guys, what new episodes, projects, and so forth have you guys coming up? Anything worthwhile, worth mentioning, basically?
um, yeah, well, basically, we ride off of the spirit of the people. So,
I
we
like
never really have anything projected. We kind of feel all
I have the
what's
spirit.
going on. I mean, it works better for us because to address issues that are pertinent in the moment. Yeah, so but I think also, like, to kind of sum up a lot of the theme of what we've been talking about, I truly am a firm believer that creativity is eternal, um, and that if it gets into grounds where it becomes formulaic, it resists that and goes and branches out and becomes something new. And I think AI is just another version of the formula. I think, you asked me earlier on what the future might look like. I think it looks like two markets: an AI market where people can create the kind of formulaic things they want, and a real artistic market where they go to actually experience the stuff that not even a computer could replicate. And I think that's what artists are actively fighting for right now. The AI tide is here. I mean, this whole idea really isn't new. AI is kind of like a new guise of how creativity has been flowing. And capitalism works through formula, and it tries to kind of make its money on what is safe. But we all know that in the grassroots, in the groundworks, the art that emerges from the people is always the risky art. It's always the avant-garde. It always is weird at first before it's co-opted into whatever is popular. Amapiano right now is global, but a couple of years ago it was some weird fringe electronic dance music that was being done in Pretoria. And that's why capitalism is always late. By the time it catches up, the people are onto something else. So I think even with AI, we need not be too worried. It will take a lot of things, but it will give birth to many new
Yeah, man.
opportunities. All it's capitalizing on formula. And I think if we understand that, then the trick and the strategy is to be as unformulaic as we can be, because then it will be too confused to understand how to even process the information in the beginning. But yeah, that's my opinion. To sum it up, I think creativity will always win in the end over formula, even though formula is more lucrative in the context of capitalism. It always, even formula takes from what was once considered the risky creative art. So whatever right now, just to the audience, if you're doing something weird, strange, that nobody gets, nobody understands, if you're sitting there doing a podcast, this is it. This is right. What you're doing right here, brother Wesley, it's creative. This is AI couldn't replicate this even if it tried. I mean, it could
Yeah,
mimic you, but it would never be.
I
Oh yeah,
agree.
that's my view.
I agree. I love when you're saying we ride on the mood of the people. I like that. It's clever and it's so correct. Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant. Brother, it's nice and warm by me today. So it's a nice warm summer's day. I think I'm gonna work on this episode now. Actually, I'll put it out as soon as I'm done. And yeah, man, I'll definitely chew up in a week or so. I'll put out shorts as well, and let's see what else we can do in the year, man. I've got a few. I told you in the beginning, I've got a plan. I have there's method to my madness. Yeah, and let me share some of this madness. Because this podcasting space is dope, man. I think there's so much potential here. For everybody, really. And there's really, because there's a topic that I decided to touch on, but I don't know, maybe for future time will be new markets. That's something I'm super interested in. I think there's so many new developing markets and new people that we don't even know about that's into the stuff. And I think that the digital space makes it so cool that we can tap into all of that. And the social media also has an interesting role to play, and so forth and so forth. There's lots I can talk about. My brother, enjoy the rest of your Friday. To my listeners, yeah, man, if you found this podcast, if you enjoyed this conversation, smash that subscribe button. I will appreciate it. Until the next time, one love.
One love, one love, just one more thing, one more. You've invited to your digital home. We've got to do a part two on this the other way around. So we'll definitely talk about you being on the headspace
Oh,
in whatever form
what
we
to
can
that?
make.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I truly do. Yeah, let's go together. Let's go together, brother. Thank you so much.
Let's make it happen, King. One love.
One love, peace.